Picture this. A family has just lost someone. The grief is still fresh, the house still full of their things, photos still on the wall, and then a letter shows up. It's not from a friend or a neighbor, it's from the court. Suddenly, the family is locked out. They can't touch the bank accounts. They can't sell the house. They can't even access the business funds to make payroll for employees who are also grieving. And here's the part that catches everyone off guard. Strangers can now look up what was owned, what it was worth, and who is getting what. That single moment, that loss of control at the worst possible time, is exactly what wealthy families are trying to avoid. Because when you have real assets, the biggest risk isn't just losing money, it's losing control. When most of us hear the word trust, our minds jump to one of two places. That's for billionaires, or that's some kind of tax loophole. But the truth is, a revocable living trust, the kind most families start with, doesn't usually create some magical tax savings. That's not the point. The real reason the wealthy put everything in a trust is simpler and far more practical. They aren't optimizing for death, they're optimizing for a smooth handoff. For them, planning an estate is like building a backup generator for a mansion, not because you expect a power outage every day, but because you know when one happens, the consequences are absolutely brutal. So what is a living trust in plain English? It's a legal container you create while you're alive. You can move your assets into it, your house, your investments, your business. You control it completely. You can change it. You can even cancel it if you want. You are still the boss. But here's the key. When you die or become incapacitated, the person you chose as your successor trustee can step in immediately and manage everything according to your wishes, without ever having to ask a court for permission. Think of it this way. A will is basically a set of instructions for the court. A trust is a complete system designed to operate on its own, and wealthy families love systems. Now let's talk about the villain of this story, the one thing a trust is specifically designed to dodge: probate. Probate is the court process of proving someone died, validating their will, paying off creditors, and distributing what's left. Sometimes it's simple, but when significant assets or messy family dynamics are involved, probate becomes a slow-motion train wreck. Wealthy families hate it for four big reasons. First, it's slow. We're talking months, sometimes years. Second, it's public. Your family's finances become a public record. Third, it's expensive. Attorneys, court fees, appraisals, it all adds up. And fourth, it's fragile. Grief mixed with money can make family tensions explode in a public courtroom. But the real surprise, the cost nobody talks about, is momentum. If there's an operating business, rental properties, investments, a frozen estate can bleed for months, losing value and opportunities every single day. Wealthy families aren't just trying to transfer a house, they're trying to transfer an entire operating system, and probate brings that system to a grinding, costly halt. In the end, it's all about ensuring the people you love don't have their grief compounded by a legal nightmare. It's about making sure that in their most vulnerable moment, they have support and continuity, not a letter from the court.
There's this phrase you hear all the time: the rich put everything in a trust. It sounds secretive, maybe a little dramatic, but the real reason isn't some grand conspiracy. It's actually 5 boring, incredibly powerful reasons. First, scale. When you own multiple properties, businesses, investments, the standard process after death, called probate, turns into absolute chaos. A trust is simply easier to manage. Second, privacy. Wealthy families value discretion. They don't want a public inventory of their lives floating around because that kind of visibility attracts problems, scams, conflicts, and opportunists. Third, multi-state assets. Owning property in Florida and another in California can trigger 2 separate, complicated probate processes. A trust centralizes control over everything, assuming it's set up correctly. The fourth reason is the quiet one: incapacity. A living trust isn't just for death, it's for the days someone is still alive but can't manage their own affairs: a stroke, an accident, dementia. In that moment, the last thing a family wants is court involvement or delay. A trust allows someone they've chosen to step in immediately. And finally, generational planning. This is where the rich get strategic. They've learned a painful lesson. Dumping a pile of money on someone doesn't always help them. It can destroy motivation, invite predators, or fuel family wars. A trust can distribute money in stages, set up guardrails, and protect heirs from their own worst decisions, not to control them, but to prevent the money from becoming a weapon. But here's the twist everyone gets wrong. When they say everything, they don't actually mean everything. This is a huge mistake people make. The biggest exceptions are retirement accounts, your 401ks and IRAs. You typically don't retitle those into your trust like you would a house or a bank account. Doing that can trigger massive tax penalties or create a legal mess. Instead, what's done is a careful coordination of beneficiary designations. Sometimes the trust is named as a beneficiary, sometimes it isn't. It depends entirely on the situation. A trust isn't a magic drag-and-drop folder for your assets. It's a blueprint, and that blueprint has to match the specific asset type. Now, the most dangerous trust plan is the one that's half-finished. A trust only works if it's funded, meaning your assets are actually titled in its name. This is where so many people mess up. They pay a lawyer, get a fancy binder, put it on a shelf, and then they buy a new house or open a new investment account and completely forget to connect it to the plan. That's when a family discovers the trust exists only on paper. And the brutal irony is that a broken trust can be worse than no trust at all, because everyone assumes the plan is handled, right up until the moment they find out it isn't. So, should you put everything in a trust? The rule is practical. A trust is most valuable when the cost of a messy transition is high. If you own real estate, especially in another state, a business, have a significant net worth, or you're worried about an heir receiving a lump sum, it's worth exploring. The wealthy don't use trusts because they're inherently better than a will. They use them because the downside of disorder for them is massive. If you take one thing away, let it be this. The rich don't do this because they're obsessed with death. They do it because they're obsessed with continuity. They're building a system that ensures if something happens, their family doesn't have to fight the government, fight each other, or fight time. No chaos, no confusion, no public spectacle, just a clean handoff. Because when grief arrives, the last thing your family needs is for paperwork to turn into a war.